Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
A parable is told of a great war horse who comes upon a tiny sparrow lying on its back in the middle of the street with its feet in the air, eyes squinched tightly together with effort. "What on earth are you doing?" the horse sneers. "I'm trying to hold back the darkness," replies the sparrow. And the horse roars with laughter. "That is so absurd. What do you weigh, about an ounce?" And the sparrow answers, "One does what one can." One does what one can. Does one? What is it that one can do? And how might we, at least more of the time, choose that thing? Some of the recent trainings I've attended say a very difficult thing, which is that we have to face that we are no longer living in a democracy. Forget about saving it. Now what we're doing is just trying to hold back the darkness, hold back the slide into authoritarianism. Our backs up against the wall or flat on the street, and we're just trying to hold back the darkness. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have looked upon myself through the eyes of that horse. I have felt like the struggle is so great that it seems absurd to go to the trouble to even get onto my back. And once there, to try to use every muscle in my body to push back with all my might. I mean, what possible difference could it make? My small individual effort seems powerless against the heavy, heavy avalanche of authoritarianism sliding toward us. And yet, what other choice do we have? What else can we do? Because to do nothing is the opposite of saying yes to life and to love, and the opposite of saying yes is to say, "No, I give, uncle." My topic for today is choosing love. Choosing love. I don't think I have to tell you, though I will, that love is a word that contains multitudes. It's warm and fuzzy as well as risky and bold. It's vacuous as well as deeply meaningful. It describes our most intimate feelings and yet is as intangible as breath. It is a simple gesture of the heart, and it's also a radically counterintuitive act. It requires both softness and bravery. Love is all around us, and it is too often elusive and empty. And yet, it is said, or better, it's sung, that love makes the world go round, that love is all we need. Now, because this is the day after Valentine's Day, I have to clarify that I am not today talking about erotic love or even romantic love. I'm talking about the kind of love expressed in Ellen Bass's poem, that kind of love by which you take that tired, haggard, downtrodden face of the world in your hands and you take a hard look at it and still say, "Yes, I will love you again. I will continue to love you," even when it seems our bodies cannot withstand it. We choose yes, even when everything that matters seems to be crumbling to bits like burnt paper. We say yes, yes to love. And I'm talking about a love that at its base is selfless and sees every being as worthy, as holy. A love that understands that we exist in this interdependent web in which every choice matters. Love even when we're exhausted. Love even for that which seems ugly. a love for a possibility of a truly beloved community, and a love of self that's actually part of that possibility, a love that expresses itself in kindness and mutual aid and service of a world that none of us has yet seen. That's the kind of love I'm talking about. Love for the sake of love as the only right thing to do. I had a really hard time figuring out what to say to you this morning. I wish I knew what was going to happen next. Is ICE really going to leave our state? And even so, what kind of aftermath will we face? How will we restore all of the broken lives? Where will ICE go next? And what can we do to support those folks? And since I don't know anything about what's going to happen, how can I possibly reassure you or inspire you? I wish that I could just analyze all the reports and opinions and offer a succinct analysis of the situation, an analysis that would lead to solving all the problems and turning our country toward the values of justice and equity and the worthiness of all. And while there are hundreds of good-hearted people trying to do this right now, and although this is heartening, so heartening, still there's no answer. There are no real solutions. I feel sort of like that lovable scarecrow, who when asked the way to Oz could only reply, well, some people go this way, some people go that way, some people go both ways. If I only had a brain. Like the scarecrow, I don't have the answers, and I don't think you do either. Although I can say for sure that there is no one else coming to save us. It's pretty darn disappointing, right? But it's true, there's no one else coming to save us. So I'm going to try to make the case that love, this crazy thing called love, that choosing love is our best defense against what is relentlessly advancing toward us. All we can do is do what we can with the moment we have, with the people around us, because that's all we've got. And that's how we'll save us. All we can do is do whatever we do with love. Even though over and over again and all too often we humans make a different choice, we take a different path. As I prepared for today, I kept thinking about Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other. Can you feel yourself standing at that spot? The one path doesn't require much. It's well trodden. But the other? Well, it's really not as well traveled. So which way should I choose? This way or that? There is a choice to be made. This picture of standing at the choice between two roads fits really for many times in life when we're faced with a conscious decision. We can clearly see that there are two options. We stand there at that crossroad until we have had a chance to weigh those options and to talk about it with our confidants and to reason out the possible consequences either way. We understand that kind of choice. But it's a little harder to see how to apply the image of two paths to that automatic or knee-jerk reaction we have in any given moment, moments that require a quick choice. How do I naturally respond with kindness? Or do I choose annoyance? Do I automatically open my checkbook, or do I stuff my hands in my pockets? Do I put aside my preferences or insist on my way? Do I look upon the other with loving kindness or suspicion or even disgust? I think choosing love is getting in the practice of getting into our hearts, which I know is not always a comfortable or familiar place. I think so many of us have witnessed so much pain and felt far too many cries for help that we have learned to protect ourselves by trying not to care too much. We've closed our hearts, and so choosing love involves this practice of opening up, of taking that new pathway that's not very worn, at least not yet. Choosing love is something we learn by walking the path, even when it's rough, even when we can't see where it's leading us. Author Anne Lamott says that we come to this path, this learning, afraid and full of shame. And yet that's no reason not to take the path. Because to choose to learn to love is simply about showing up, even when we don't feel it. Because it matters that we show up. All we can do is choose love with the best tools we have, knowing it's not going to be perfect, and maybe we'll do it better the next time. What it takes is this willingness to stick out our hands and feet and do our small part in holding back what's coming toward us, even when we don't know if it will matter, but still moving toward that impulse to act with love, because love is the only thing we have that can overcome hatred and fear. I have to believe that making this choice as often as possible repeatedly builds this muscle in us, this resilience that makes that choice easier and more natural over time. But there's something else about that choice. Let me do a little mashup of the words of two very wise people who spoke about hope and faith. Václav Havel said that hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but rather it's the certainty that something is worth doing no matter how it turns out. That's hope. Something is worth doing no matter how it turns out. And the French philosopher Emmanuel Levinas said that faith isn't about belief. It's about understanding that love without rewards is valuable. Love without rewards is valuable. To choose love, particularly in difficult circumstances, is to act out of a conviction that love matters no matter how it turns out, and to do so without the promise of reward. And this goes against everything white supremacy culture has taught us about acting only in the interest of profit. We've been taught that what is valuable is what we can quantify, that we're fools if we don't ask what's in it for us, or if we can't see right away the results. So in other words, choosing love and accepting that we may see no reward and no progress is radically countercultural, radically so, because to choose love is to choose a path of unlearning in order that we might learn something new, something that's valuable for its own sake. As one very smart guy, Einstein, said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. We have to do something different, radically different. You know, one thing I'm seeing in my social media right now, and maybe you are too, is some kind of an effort to summarize what's happened in the Twin Cities over the past months. And every one of the posts that I have seen includes pictures of crowds of people showing up. Crowds of people showing up to mourn, to protest, to sing, to protect. Crowds gathering up in a collective resilience that will support us in choosing love again and again. Very little of what's happened here is about grand gestures, but it's about very small daily choices to show up out of love for this community and in support of each other. Because that's the right thing to do. Small gestures, offering whatever we have. There's this great phrase in Ecclesiastic that suggests to us that we should cast our bread upon the waters. Cast out our bread. Essentially urges bold generosity. Just tossing it out there, giving without expecting anything in return. It speaks to sharing our resources in uncertain times and trusting it's the right, maybe the only response. Here's what I have. I give it freely. It's the recognition that we can't solve the immigration crisis or the economy or change the minds of the current administration, but we can show up and we can offer what we have. As Mexican-American writer Clarissa Pinkola Estes said, ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that's within our reach. To choose love, I believe, is to tend to the present while at the same time, just tugging a little on that vision of a future that looks more like the world we want. Change might come from the small things adding up, but we really can't even rely on that. But even so, we can act as if that's the world we have right now. The city is a different place than it was 6 years ago. We've learned a lot about love since then. And what we've learned so far has served us well, I think, because we've come to see that we're part and parcel of whatever will emerge. It's only by our actions and our love that a better world can come into being. Or actually, it's only by our love that the world we're in already is better. It's only through choosing love that justice comes into being. There's no greater power in the world than humans acting together in love. Do you remember how Frost chose the road less traveled? It was clear to him that choosing that path would eventually lead to it becoming more easily traveled, that the more he chose that path, the easier the choice would be, and that's what would make all the difference. Maybe? Who knows? But the choice is made to take a different way. Think of the tens of thousands of people who showed up to march on January 23rd. Think of that path. In that walking, they wore down the streets of the city, showing that this is the path we choose, a path of more love, more justice, a path made more joyful because we are together. And maybe in the end, that's all that matters, as Walt Whitman said, "We were together, I forget the rest." Love will prevail because we will make it so. Together we will choose love again and again, and I forget the rest. May it always be so.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.